Now, let's get to your top stories. It's beyond a border crisis down there on the southern border, my friends. And by the way, calls for unity? No, they're calling for segregation now, the Democrat socialists. And the left's push for gun control. That's where we begin tonight. The NRA is warning that Senate insiders believe a Democrat gun control bill will likely get a hearing in the Senate next week after it passed the House last week. Joining me now to weigh in on this is Colorado Congresswoman and conservative Lauren Boebert. Congresswoman, always great to see you. Before we get to the Democrat socialist efforts to disarm law-abiding citizens, you're a firebrand. You're an unapologetic conservative. Now, you've seen these milquetoast Republicans up close. How is it that you see the threats the Democrats pose so clearly, but these Republicans can't? Why?
You know, that was a question that I asked myself before I got into this. I was tired of politicians coming to our towns making promises that they were never going to keep. They would tell us this great conservative message, so we would send them to secure our rights, to be our voice in Washington, D.C. But then they get there and they forget who they work for. They work for we the people. They get to D.C., they overregulate, overtax, overspend, and destroy everything that we are building so hard at home. Look, Chris, I took out a 5-term incumbent because I was tired of people telling me that he was a conservative, and then we weren't getting those votes. We weren't getting that kind of impact back home, and our district was suffering because of it. I took on an establishment member of Congress because the people of Colorado deserved better, and that's exactly why I'm here. I promised them that I would be their voice, and that's exactly what I'm doing in Washington, D.C. Gone are the days of politicians coming town to town, lying to us to get where they want in this political game. The future of the party is promises kept.
Yep, we need a Xerox copy of you, at least in 17 instances I can think of. Okay, let's get back to the issue at hand. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki is making clear that Joe Biden looks forward to repealing something called the liability shield that protects gun manufacturers from frivolous lawsuits. Now, this is, of course, a blatant effort by the anti-American left to drive gun manufacturers out of business, thus depriving Americans of their right of self-defense with firearms. It's not that complicated. What say you?
Well, I'm just wondering when we're going to go after the fork and spoon and knife manufacturers for obesity. I mean, this is pretty clear right now at this point. There's no such thing as moderate Democrats. When the left is terming things like common sense gun control, it's really an all-out assault on our Second Amendment. We saw 2 bills passed last week in the House, and they're horrific. They're stripping Americans of their constitutional rights. And then right after that, the Democrats call for a press conference for an all-out ban on more than 200 types of firearms and magazines. And I'm not going down that path, Chris. I stand with the Constitution, and it says a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And it's interesting, our founding fathers gave government a list of items that they said, keep your dirty, corrupt hands off of these things. They belong to the people. They are God-given rights to the people, not given by politicians. Keep your dirty hands off of them. And that's all politicians seem to go after. So as a freshman member of Congress, I was actually given a copy of our Constitution. And I think it's time that more members of Congress take a look at what it actually says.
Yeah, they might need to brush up on it a little bit. Let's just say, for argument's sake, the socialists, absent a real opposition party that we already talked about, is able to disarm Americans. Now, these are the same incompetent boobs that can't stop humans, drugs, and illegal guns flowing over our southern border. So if the Democrats get their way, this is what America will look like in short order. The only folks who will be armed will be the government and the criminals. That scares the hell out of me. How about you?
That's exactly what we're seeing in real time. The Democrats are showing us that they protect who and what they care for. We just left an administration where President Trump wanted to secure our country because he loves America and he loves the people of America. He wanted to protect the people who live here. And Democrats are showing us that they don't give a darn about the people who live here. They want open borders. They want every state to be a border state, allowing thousands of illegal aliens to come through. We don't even know if they have the China virus or not. There are reports of many of them being infected with the China virus and still being released and being bussed into our communities. But Democrats, they feel threatened. And look, we have a wall around the People's House, around our nation's capital, with miles of razor wire and armed National Guards. Democrats care about government, they care about big government, and they care about themselves.
Last thing, the U.S. Army may be reconsidering its new gender-neutral fitness standards because an overwhelming failure rate among women. They can't do the same things physically that guys can do. An Army officer told military.com, quote, "We have to figure out a way to make it fair to both genders," end quote. Congresswoman, will America's enemies on the battlefield, will they treat our women fairly?
Absolutely not. The only focus of the U.S. military should be making sure that we are the most deadly force on the planet. And I believe that women should meet the necessary standards to make sure the U.S. military is exactly that. Women in the military aren't the problem. It's lowering the standards to this woke culture that's infiltrating our military. That's the real issue here. Critical race theory is the issue. Our focus shouldn't be maternity jumpsuits. If women are able to make the standards, absolutely. Thank you so much for your service to our country. But, you know, I have had National Guards in my congressional office telling me how frustrated they are that they laid aside their rights to protect ours. This isn't what they signed up for. They didn't sign up for Congress to shred the rights of Americans all across our nation. They didn't lay aside their rights and risk everything, sacrifice their life to argue over maternity jumpsuits. I am grateful for the men and women who serve our country, and they deserve the best, and they deserve to be strengthened in every way. And we need to make sure that we remain the most powerful force on earth.
The last place political correctness belongs is in the United States military. Right. Congresswoman, it's always refreshing to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, where real news for real people.